Hello, hello, FedPhoenix fam. So, I hope y'all are staying warm. It's getting a bit nippy here in West Virginia. I seen someone say online we actually have snow coming already. But, it is what it is, right? So anyway, I was debating making a video addressing my views on the government shutdown because I try to stay out of the murky waters of politics and really anything that in its nature encourages division, particularly among regular folks like me and you. But I just want to get off my chest my thoughts. Whatever good you can take from this, please do. If you don't agree, that's fine. Keep it respectful. But let's go. Let's get into it. So, the big thing that is stirring amuck publicly about the government shutdown is the suspension of SNAP, of food stamps. Mind you, this has never happened during a government shutdown. Now, granted, we are in, historically, the longest government shutdown. The second longest was during the previous sitting of the current president. It's kind of a pattern. Last time it was because him and his party wanted us, the taxpayers, to fund his wall, which, if you understand anything about planes and tunnels and boats, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Not to mention the people walking over, mostly people looking for seasonal work. And they contribute an insane amount of money to our tax system. And some people go, well, they don't have social security numbers. They can't pay taxes. They can. It's called an ITIN, Individual Tax Identification Number. Feel free to Google that. These people pay taxes doing extremely difficult manual labor, have an almost non-existent level of criminal conduct, and they cannot benefit from the tax system in which they're paying into. Never in history has any undocumented person been able to get medical insurance or welfare, food stamps or income-based housing, or that's just not how this works. The ITN is strictly for the purpose of paying taxes, of contributing into a situation that cannot benefit you. Which, the fact that they do this insanely difficult manual labor at really low rates is selfless enough, although obviously the financial gain is worth it for them, all things considered. But the fact that they do so while voluntarily choosing to pay into the tax system that they can't benefit from, kudos. Seriously, I applaud it. But a lot of people are going, well, there's so much abuse in the food stamp system. That's not true. Do your homework. Really, don't take my word for it. Do your own research. And research information from a variety of sources, from neutral sources, left sources, right sources. Get your information from these various different perspectives, outlets, whatever. Put it all together, look at it from an unbiased lens, and come to your own conclusions. Don't just take information from one biased source or particular type of biased source and then think that you know what the heck is actually going on, because, well, that's just not smart, and that's just choosing ignorance. It's willful ignorance. Another thing that people are saying is, well, the food stamp system is costing us so much money. For every dollar that is given out in SNAP, various economic, people that break down how money works and where it goes and all this kind of thing, say on average, say that for every dollar that goes into SNAP, $1.50 to $1.80, so about $1.50 to almost $2 of economic benefit occurs. So even if everybody in the country is getting $1,000 in food stamps, it's like Oprah, you get a car, which is not at all the situation. But even if that was that, those being issued out creates economic activity that actually creates more money in the economy than it takes out of it. So I'm not seeing where the problem is. Not to mention, historically, and you can research this as well, the SNAP program has the lowest fraud rate of any federal assistance program. Any. Not to mention the real welfare queens, for example, is Walmart, the Walton family, who are worth, I believe, billions at this point, if not in the higher end of the millions. And they are welfare queens because not only do they get these insane tax breaks and tax cuts because they're rich and, well, things are designed for their benefit, but additionally, they pay their employees a below living wage so that their employees have to rely upon things like medical insurance and food stamps and different things from the government to survive. I know a couple, a husband and a wife, that have 1, 2, 3 boys. Both of them work full-time at Walmart. If it was not for housing assistance and food stamps and government medical insurance, they would not survive. And these are 2 people working full-time. And you may say, well, why do they both work full-time at the same place? Close proximity to their home, which cuts travel costs because they can't afford it. And also so that one of them can always be home to watch the kids because they also cannot afford daycare. And this is a home with the only 2 adults in the home working full-time at one of the largest retailers, if not the largest retailer in the country. So don't hit me with but welfare freeloaders. The real freeloaders are corporations. The real freeloaders are the millionaires and billionaires who we give extreme cuts and breaks to just for shits and gigs, and whose employees have to rely upon public assistance to survive because of the poverty wages they are paid. And don't tell me, people that get food stamps, they buy steak and lobster and filet mignon. I live in West Virginia. This is the second, I believe, highest state for poverty rate. The first or second for public assistance needed to survive. The people that don't have to work for those food stamps, if you're not a working person, you get food stamps, or, are people over 65 years old, people who have legally been deemed disabled through like Social Security, which, by the way, is not as easy as folks may think, and certainly is a time-consuming process, and people that have children under the age of like 14. So basically, it would cost the government more to subsidize daycare for them to be able to afford daycare, for them to work part-time somewhere, to give them their food stamps to meet the 20-hour-a-week work requirement, than it would to just give them the food stamps. And honestly, it's always the people that are, traditional family, traditional household, blah, 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 that are like, they need to work for them food stamps. Well, if it's a single mother or grandmother raising her grandchildren, I thought you guys also wanted these kids to come from homes where they get home-cooked meals and someone helps them, someone's around to help them with homework. You can't have both. And a lot of times you can't. Sometimes you can, most of the time you can't. And the reason why we've never had this issue before during government shutdowns is because there is contingency funding, and please feel free to research it, again, from unbiased, neutral sources, and then the 2 extreme type of sources. Put that information together, look at it through an unprejudiced lens. You'll come up with the same conclusions I have, I'm sure. But there's contingency funding for in these situations to ensure that these things are not interrupted. Now, you may say, well, if there's funding's there, why is the president like telling them they can't issue it? Like, who would say you can't feed people? Like, that's crazy. Well, I mean, your answer is, the call's coming from within the house, so to speak. I don't have to explain that the person who said don't issue SNAP is the person who decided to not issue SNAP when it could be issued. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? And you may say, well, why though? What possible motivation could exist for this, right? Well, the last government shutdown, when the taxpayers need to pay for this wall thing, was the big issue. Now the big issue is, let's pass a budget where thousands and thousands, I forget if it's in the tens or hundreds of thousands, maybe more, Americans lose their government health insurance. And a lot of these people are chronically ill, elderly, veterans, and children. Or they either lose it altogether, or they're like copay, whatever it is, the amount people pay every month, for insurance, like goes to an insanely high increase that is not realistic for them to afford. So the president and his party are saying, either pass something that allows us to do this, or y'all just don't eat. And that's a really difficult situation to be in. And I say, hold the line, stand your ground. Eventually, something will have to change to come up with a solution where people can still eat, the working poor, the elderly, the children, the disabled, without having to cause these people to exchange their access to medical care, which is not great to begin with, in order to eat. And at the end of the day, people are people are people. And I say this all the time, and I mean it, and I believe it. And I try to live my life in a way that reflects this philosophy. I don't care that someone on SNAP occasionally buys some clearance steaks. I don't care. I don't care that a person on SNAP buys their kid a birthday cake. I don't care that they want to occasionally have a sweet treat around their house. They want some chips and some sodas and whatever. It's not hurting anyone. And again, every dollar they spend creates more than that dollar in economic activity. So there's really a no-lose situation. And every single state has work requirements for SNAP if you don't fall into one of these groups of people that I've previously mentioned, who it's really unrealistic to expect that they work. Now, SNAP did used to, until recently, if you were a veteran, if you were homeless, like there were a few groups of people that would be given an exemption, right? They didn't have to meet the 20-hour-a-week work requirement to get their food stamps. Well, that's being pulled off the table now too. So now your friendly veteran who has PTSD and, can barely function outside their home will have to fulfill a 20-hour-a-week work requirement to get their food stamps. And that's whenever they're reinstated. Now, the homeless person who doesn't know where their next meal is going to come from, because you only get so much on food stamps, and has been freezing all night over a heating grate on the street to stay warm and not die of hypothermia, also has to go work 20 hours a week, volunteering somewhere, working somewhere, in order to be able to get those food stamps that allow them to sustain their life with food 1 or 2 weeks out of the month. So those changes are happening regardless, and it's pretty ugly. A lot of states said that if you had children under like 16 or 15, again, it would cost more to pay for the daycare than, the 20 hours a week, whatever. Now they're dropping that age to 14. So there are definitely a lot of changes that are counterproductive to members of the society surviving that are happening regardless. But this suspension on them is a whole different level of kick in the head. And my thing is, life is not fair. Like I tell my 8-year-old son, the only fairness that happens in life is the fairness we create, which is why if we want fairness, we must consciously try to treat people fairly and create fairness. But there's a world of difference between what is fair and what is right. And I've said before, and I stand on it, that legality does not equal morality. Additionally, policy and practice are often not the same when you deal with anything on the federal level, including the federal legal system and federal inmate situations. And a lot of federal facilities, not most, but a lot, tend to be on lockdowns and have, a certain add-on of avoidable suffrage for the persons detained because of the short staffing. I don't know if the COs are getting paid right now, but if they're not, I assure you a lot of them are calling off work, which means a lot more staffing shortages, which means a lot more lockdowns, a lot less access to things like visitation and email to try to maintain some family ties, some community ties, some sanity. So, it really would add a level of deprivation to the already trench of deprivation that incarcerated persons in this country suffer. So, because if people are wondering, like, how does this tie into that? I would assume that would be how. But at the end of the day, the funding is there. Release it. Do the right thing. Even if you have some ulterior motive. I'm not opposed to people doing the right thing for the wrong reason. Just like in some circumstances, I fully understand doing the wrong thing for the right reason. In this case, do the right thing. I don't care what your reasoning is. I don't. And I'm not going to stand up and applaud when you already made it clear that this is a bargaining tactic and you don't really see people as people, and you would not be doing it for the obvious, very simple, humane reasoning a person should have. But I don't care about your motives. I'm not going to stand up and clap when you pretend to have a conscience because it benefits you. I'm just saying do it. Do the right thing. When you are in a position to stand up for what is right, just do it. And there's a thing that I read or seen years ago, and it says something to the effect of, you may not take an interest in politics, but that will not stop politics from taking an interest in you. So even though I tend to try to avoid all the murky crap with political stuff, especially publicly, online and on my own forums, this is affecting people around me in a way that is so heartbreaking and disgusting that I would be wrong to not say something, right? So if you have not subscribed and you would like to, please feel free to. If you have an opinion on the issue, I'd love to hear it. Again, if it's different, just be respectful. That's all I ask. I can entertain intelligent, respectful dialogue. If you haven't subscribed, it costs you nothing, does me a world of favors. Please do. My Cash App, Venmo, and PayPal will be in the link if you'd like to donate to the channel. As will my email if you need to contact me for any reason. I really hope, no matter if you're someone who is completely unscathed by this, or if you're a person that is drowning because of this, wherever you fall on that spectrum, I truly hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope that when you are in a position to do the right thing, no matter how big or how small or how insignificant it may feel at the time, please do it. Please do. Oh, and there'll also be a link in the description for the merch line if you'd like to buy some FedPhoenix gear, perhaps a People Are People hoodie, because this is a message that's been lost somehow culturally in this country, sadly. So anyway, I wish you all the best and good day. God bless.